but I think everybody really changed because they were able to see lots of different gamelans performing, and they were able to play a gamelan outside. And also there was the terrifying business when we rehearsed, because we were rehearsing at somebody's house in Batu Bulan, and not only did members of the local gamelan group come along to listen to us as we were practicing, and they would come up to us as we were playing and give us suggestions about how we could jazz it up or make it a bit better for somebody like me who was just trying to hit the right notes at the right time. It was a bit terrifying. But you could see people stopping in the street when they heard us playing, and they would come around and have a look, and there were all these strange boulets playing the gamelan, and it was very, very frightening. And when we played in the arts festival, we were able to get in and practice in the afternoon before we went on in the evening. And we arrived to do our practice, and the Wantilan Theatre was completely full of people. They, I don't know, somebody'd heard, maybe there was this bunch of boulets they were going to be practicing. And it was almost more terrifying than the performance, because we sat down to play, and there was this huge sense of expectation in the air. And when we started to play, they all applauded. And you got such a wonderful sense of warmth. Whew, we're going to be all right. It was, it was an absolutely central experience.
Do you think the audience there became, do you think they were giving you the energy as well?
Oh yes, absolutely. And it was quite funny because the first piece we started off with was our signature piece, Lila Cita, that one of our members, Nye Perry, wrote for the group. And it has a wonderful beginning because it's got everybody banging on a six really loud, and there's a kind of antiphonal thing going on. And there's a lot of fireworks in the first section of the piece. And the Balinese just loved this, people were applauding, it was really great. Then the second section of the piece is really, really slow and quiet. And so everybody started talking. and Lila Cita, the Tabu Lila Cita by Nye. So, because I'd been in Bali, I felt comfortable with that. I knew that would happen. And then they got revved up as we went through. But I think because the first spectacular part was spectacular, they were on our side. So even though they were talking all through the slow bits, we'd made the right impression at the beginning. And yeah, we really felt that they were for us. And more people kept coming in through the performance and not drifting out. So we felt we were winning there too.
How does it, playing music, how does it affect your dance?
I thought in the beginning I would understand everything immediately. So once I could hear the gong, and if you're playing the jegog, you're sitting right next to the gong, so you can't help it. I thought I would understand what my teacher, Idu Bagasalit, was saying to me, and because I didn't understand the structure at all, I didn't understand that the gong was marking the end of phrases and so on. I didn't really see the punctuation. Gradually, as I did more dancing and I did more listening and I watched more dance, I began to understand how it works, how the whole thing works, and I started. So I think it was symbiotic, really. The dancing helped the gamelan playing helped the dancing. Knowing where the tune was and eventually understanding where the jegog was in relation to the gong, and knowing how the phrases fell out. But it's really, I've been dancing topeng since 1997, so that's by now 13 years. And it's really only in the last 2 years that I feel I now can be married to the music and know when I have to do things. And even though I've had very good teachers who've tried to help me understand how this works, I'm not, so I've been studying with Nimade Pujawati, and been getting the benefit of having regular teaching and not having to go to Bali and study, which would be very expensive. But also, when Nenga Susila came here, I said, I don't understand where I have to fit my movements in the topeng. And so he took me through the different versions of the topeng dances that I did so that I would learn the tune. And he taught me where I had to make the signal for the drummer to signal the gamelan about doing an angsel or whatever. And that helped. But the thing that really helped was just listening to the music over and over and over and over again. And watching performances, watching really good performances. And suddenly, when you see the interaction of the dancer and the drummer, the dancer and the whole gamelan, and then sitting at the gamelan and watching somebody like you do Turunajaya, for example, and seeing how what I'm hitting is affecting what you're doing in the dance, suddenly then it all comes together and you do understand what it means. It's a challenge. And now I understand that my husband used to play for the Royal Ballet Touring Orchestra back in the days of Nureyev and Fontaine. And he's often told me that Margot Fontaine, she danced until she was 65 or something, which is incredibly old for a ballet dancer. And he said, she couldn't get her leg up much more than that. Ballet dancers now can stick their toes over their heads. But he said it didn't matter because she was so musical that she made every phrase work. And so if you watch a lot of ballet, you see, if you've got a very musical dancer, they're really living inside the music. And it's the same with Balinese dance. You have to really live inside the music. So I'm certain that all dancers should play music to have some kind of feeling for what they're doing. It helps immeasurably.
Do you think that's supporting?
Oh yes, yes, absolutely. Yes, I can't go any further than that. It's I regard it as essential. And many of the dancers that we have now in our dance group, Lila Bawa, also play in the gamelan. In fact, it's kind of funny because they first came and played in the gamelan, and then they decided to take dance lessons. So now it makes our concerts kind of funny because you'll have somebody in a legong costume playing the ugal, and me in the back in my topeng costume playing the jegong. But it's also very nice because when we've had our Balinese teachers come and work with us playing the gamelan, they too are also dancing, and so it's a very good example because in this country, in the UK, musicians, dancers, they're this far apart. I have been married to 2 musicians, not at the same time, and I've spent a lot of time with musicians, and they are so bodily unconscious, Western musicians. And if you have to do something like, because I'm a theatre director, I have to sometimes have musicians on stage. And if you have actor musicians who are already performers, but they also play music, they're fine. If you get a regular MU member and ask them to come on stage, it's hopeless. They're awful, they're self-conscious, they forget how to play their instrument, or they only play their instrument and don't know how to communicate with the audience. It's quite extraordinary. Of course, this wouldn't be the case probably with great soloists, but even so, they're quite rightly married to their instrument. But the idea of my husband, who played the tuba in the Royal Ballet Orchestra, also getting on stage and dancing, seems a little far-fetched. Though I have to say that when he was putting himself through music college by playing for ballet classes, he actually took a couple of ballet classes so that he could understand about the music and the dance a little bit. But that's, I think, fairly unusual. I think musicians, Western musicians, could gain a great deal from doing physical movement, moving to music, dancing. Well, it's one of the things actually that Pak Dibia said to us when he was talking to Lila Cita. One, he said we had to look at the dancers when we were playing for them because it was important that we had that connection. But also, he said, you should be dancing as you're playing. And if you watch a Balinese gamelan, especially the ugal players who are having to lead, they really do. Their elbows are high and they're showing people what they're doing. And Kate Wakeling, when she was playing the ugal for Tarunajaya the last time we performed it, it was wonderful because she danced as she played, and she was very, very easy to follow. Now the ugal player that we have at the moment, one of our ugal players, is a real musician. Not only that, he's primarily a musician who works in electro music, and he's played gamelan since he was an undergraduate, so he's very keen. Justin. But Justin is much more an English musician. So we say, those of us at the back, hey, Justin, show us when you're going to give the first note. But there is a kind of thing in the English character which is to be very reserved and very quiet, and you don't want to make a great deal of fuss. We're just going to go up and down these notes. But you don't see Balinese people doing that, especially when you see them in competition. That was a real eye-opener. When we went to see some of the Gongkebyar competition when the group was in Bali. And of course, the performers don't just play the music magnificently, but they really perform. So there's all this choreography. And since we got back from Bali, now all of us Jagog players are working on the choreography of our beaters, to make sure that we can do all sorts of pyrotechnics. Not everybody some of us are still trying to play the right notes, but we're also practicing the choreography. But it's a big deal, it makes a difference. And my most recent trip to Bali, I saw a young group who was getting ready for their competition for the Bali Arts Festival. And they were doing all of it, because I think now for the competitions, everybody has to do all of this twirling of sticks, and they all have to be in time. It's excellent practice. So perhaps we should get you in to start coaching choreography for the musicians.
So musicians has to learn movements.
Yes.
And dancers have to learn music.
Yes. Yes.